Hey there. Welcome to the Pine Island Experience podcast. I'm Joanna Anderson with my husband, Trygve. Each of our episodes will be conversations with fellow Pine Islanders.
The goal of our podcast is to share with you our experiences, what we have found to be fun, and what makes the Pine Island experience so unique.
I was not expecting the community to be so supportive and so interested. I just didn't know, not being new to this community, it's very special. People are extremely loyal and supportive. They want to see you succeed. And I'm sure it's like that other places and you just don't necessarily notice because you're in a city or a bigger metropolis, whatever. But out here, people, they ask you, what can I do to support you? And at first I was like, oh, it's okay. It's fine. But they want to see you succeed in a way that is supportive of the island, which I love. It's just a different experience, being out here and seeing the community aspect of it is just tremendous.
That was Leanne Luehrman sharing how touched she's been by the warm welcome she's received from the Pine Island community. In this episode, we get to know the heart behind Sea Salt & Company, a shop full of beautifully personalized gifts and thoughtful touches. Leanne's creativity and kindness shine through in everything she does, and it's clear she's found a special place here on the island. And here's Leanne. Leanne Luehrman has joined us today from Sea Salt & Company, and we're so happy that you're here today. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we start in the beginning. All about you. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? Those types of questions.
How long do we have? Well, I was born in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So a long ways away from Pine Island, obviously. And I had sort of a circuitous route to getting here, but I went to college in Canada, undergrad in New Brunswick. And then I went to law school in Virginia Beach. And that's where I met my lovely husband, Glenn. And he summered, all of his vacations, he came to Florida to see his grandparents. And so we just had a mutual love of Florida and decided that when I was finished with law school and he was finished with his time in the Navy, we were going to move to Florida so we could mountain bike and go to the beach every day. So here we are.
Canada to Florida.
Yes.
Wow.
Not an unusual path. There's a lot of Canadians here. I'm American now, but that was 25 years ago that we moved to Florida and we moved to Fort Myers. My husband's an anesthesiologist, so he took a job here. And then we moved to St. James City in January of this year.
Oh, so you are a Pine Islander.
Yes.
Oh, fabulous. It's easier to commute to work now, isn't it?
Yeah, I love the commute. I wish I could take my golf cart all the way to the shop, but I can't.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yes.
So how did you end up in Fort Myers? I would assume it was pretty high demand. So was it opportunities, or was it like there was an opportunity at a Fort Myers location and he accepted?
A little bit of both. His grandparents, were in St. Pete. And so we knew we liked the Gulf Coast in South Florida. And so he, looked for a job here. And then we came down and interviewed, and we loved the area, all the water and the beaches. I think, especially 25 years ago, it was, still a little bit undiscovered to a certain extent. It was, the Target was just being built off Daniels and Cypress Lake. So there weren't as many Starbucks. So he accepted a job here. And I don't think we've ever regretted that choice, though we don't go to the beach as much as we'd like to and mountain bike every day because it's hot.
So I guess with living in Fort Myers, obviously, that's how you knew about Pine Island. But did you come out here to visit, or kind of what got you thinking about moving from Fort Myers out here and then opening a business on the island?
Well, first I'll tell you, I had a business in Fort Myers for many years. It was called Prepping Paradise. And a lot of people actually have come out here and they've been like, gosh, you look familiar. And it's because I had a store in Fort Myers for 13 years. And then I worked out of my home for a little while longer after COVID. So last May, I would say it was around May, some people approached us and wanted to purchase our house in Fort Myers. And we sort of been tossing the idea around. Two of our kids are already out of the home and in college, and we just have a 14-year-old left at home. And we're like, well, this house is a little bit big for us, and we just wanted to do something different.
Mhm.
So we took that as a sign, an opportunity to start thinking about doing something different. And that while that contract didn't end up going through, we started looking around and thinking, what would we like to transition to? We knew we wanted obviously downsize, something smaller. So initially we were thinking Sanibel because we really loved Sanibel. And so we looked out there and we didn't see anything that really caught our eye. And then I found a house that we now live in St. James City, and we came out to look at it, and we've never been out here. Why?
Hmm.
We just, I'd heard about it. I couldn't have found my way here without GPS. So we'd been to the waterfront restaurant by boat many times, and I've never driven to it. But we came out here and looked at the house, and we stopped for lunch, and that was it. We knew immediately that we wanted to be out here. And, it was a year ago. So we didn't think that it was going to work out the way it did because, we didn't think the house would still be for sale and would we sell our house. But it did. It all worked out. And we moved in January and have never looked back.
Like you experience something and then you start to look into it and you say, wow, this is a lot better. Because so many vacation spots, and I don't know if you folks experience it in yours, you go there and you have this great time, right? And then you
Right.
start to say, I don't know if it'd be the greatest place
Right.
to live. And you just kind of got the opposite feel when you got down here, at least for us. I mean, did you guys go through that or?
Yeah, it was like a breath of fresh air or releasing a tension or something. But I think the low-key tiki, it gets you. I don't know what they're serving, but they're serving a good time, I guess. But I felt like my husband just relaxed. And, it's a really stressful job. And I could immediately see that. And I'm like, I want that for him to be able to live in a permanent vacation state, really, and a lot of people, of course, when we say we just moved here, they go, did you buy an elevated home? Like the first thing that people say. And we did know what we were getting into because we came from Fort Myers. So we weren't coming from somewhere that was, we would be ignorant of the risks, I guess, that we were taking, but we really that didn't really affect us. We just, instantly loved the atmosphere and the people and the view from our decks and our dock. And it gets into your blood very quickly, I think, out here. It's just different.
And you can drive your golf cart all over St. James City,
Right.
practically.
I'm never going to be over that novelty.
Yes.
We love it. The kids love it. It's just fun.
Makes you feel free, doesn't it?
Yep.
Like you're a kid again.
Yeah. And I love how people are outside constantly. People are walking their dogs, they're riding their bikes, and they're just, I think that what I love about being out here is that people are making a conscious choice to live here. So that's why everybody loves it. Everybody you meet loves being here because they made the choice to live here. I think for the most part, a lot of people live here because they want to, and it shows.
Now, how did you first get into embroidery and monographing?
So when my daughter was a toddler, I just loved monogram bows. And as you maybe heard me say earlier, I went to law school. So that's my educational background. But I started making hair bows for my daughter when she was like 3. And I wanted to monogram them. My husband bought me a little embroidery machine. And I'm like, it's not big enough. I need a bigger one. So he bought me a bigger embroidery machine. And I think I had it for maybe 2 days. And people were like ringing my doorbell saying, hey, can you put my child's name on their backpack? And so there was a need. There was an obvious need for somebody to do, provide this service that is very traditional, very Southern. A lot of people are really into the monograms. And I just connected with it really early. And I'm self-taught. I've been doing it for, 20 years now. And there's a learning curve, a very steep learning curve with the embroidery. But I just started learning about the history of monograms and monogramming. And, that's a little bit separate from embroidery because you can monogram things in other forms other than just embroidery. But I started with embroidery and I instantly fell in love with what you could do. It's a very classic thing and it's very personal. And I always like to say, take something very ordinary and makes it extraordinary. It makes it special. And you can turn something into an heirloom.
I imagine you're making a lot of people very happy too. They must be
Yes.
thrilled to have
Yes.
you embroider or monogram.
Right. So, I mean, I do a lot of gifts. It's a very large part of my business. And there's something special about being part of the special moments in people's lives and gift giving.
Mhm.
And, people come in and they're like, I don't know what to get this person. So I start and ask them, well, tell me about them. And it gives you an opportunity to form a connection with people and hear about why they want to give this gift. And sometimes it's like, oh, I have to go to a graduation party or I have to go to a shower or whatever. But for the most part, people want to give something special and they just don't really know where to start. I always say to people, well, let me know how they like it. And most of the time people come back and they say, I have to tell you, it was their favorite gift. They loved it. They use it all the time, or I saw it at their house. I saw them using it. And that makes it really special to be part of that.
So what got you then to establish Sea Salt and Company here on the island?
Well, when I shut down my business in Fort Myers, I said, I will never, ever open another store. And so that is the sure path to then again, at some point, opening another store. And it was just because I was tired. I think I had young kids, and it's hard having a small business. And COVID really, did a lot of people in. So we came out here, and I think one of the first events we went to when we moved out here was the Stone Crab Festival. And I walked around and there were just a lot of vendors and so much creativity. And it really inspires you and gets those creative juices flowing. And I mean, that's another thing that I love about the area is just all the people with great ideas, artistic ideas. And it's like almost like a compulsion to create and to make things. Yes, some things are not as exciting and others. Putting a logo on someone's shirt doesn't, seem that artistic or inspiring at first, but it can be. And so just seeing all of the creativity out here, I want to bring my own unique brand of creativity here. And it's the gift giving experience. I love the island and I love being able to give something back. I think that, I wouldn't say is missing because there are a lot of great shops out here, but it's just different.
And how'd you come up with the name for the business?
Well, I love the salt air out here. I find it very, I don't know, I love the air out here. And I love, my logo, I have a pelican. I didn't know I loved pelicans until I moved out here. And we have a lot of pelicans
Mhm.
on our canal. And I just love them. I just could sit there all day and watch them. Obviously I don't, but I could. So I wanted to bring some of that into my logo. And I wanted to have a name that was sort of evocative of the island and people could connect with out here. Not just the people that are on the island, but people coming out to the island. I still have a lot of customers in Fort Myers, Naples, Sarasota, and they actually come out here. So people initially are like, oh, it's kind of far. And I'm like, well, come on out, have lunch, have dinner. There's music 7 days a week. Come and check it out. So I wanted something that would bring people out here, but also that people could connect to that were already out here. And I also wanted something that was a little bit more gender neutral than my previous logo because I found like sometimes men would come into the shop and be like, oh, it's very pink in here. But really, they'd want to get a gift for a wife or a friend or something. And I would help them do that. But I wanted it to be for everybody.
And then tell us a little bit about the process to get the business open. So any remodeling, redecorating, get your equipment in. What was that like?
Well, I was very fortunate. When I first started looking for a spot, I was looking in the area that I'm in, but at one of the other buildings. I couldn't connect with, the property owners initially. And eventually when I did, they said, well, what do you think about the building that I'm in now? And it was, previously Salt and Poppy was in there. And so I went over and I took a look at it and I met with Michelle, who owns Salt and Poppy. And she was expressing to me that she was wanting to shift and do something a little bit differently. And she wanted to be closer to her home. And they had already put a lot of work into the space, which was great because some of the other buildings would have needed a lot more work. And as soon as I saw the space, I had an idea about where I could, set up my equipment because I do all the work myself. I do the embroidery. I have 2 lasers. I do all that work myself. And I saw space for a little consultation room, which I sort of always wanted to have at my previous store. And I didn't, where I had all the thread on the wall and people could look at it and all of the different font choices and sort of just take their time creating whatever they wanted. That's how I ended up there. It went very smoothly. I had my inspections and everybody was lovely. and it just kind of came together fast. I know there were people like, why did you paint it? Because everything is bright and islandy out here. And so I did have a couple of people ask me, why did you paint it white? And I did that because for me, like my brain, I like a blank canvas, and then I like to put color into it. So, I have a lot of blank items at this shop, whether it's a baby onesie or a beach bag. And then I like to, bring the decorative element to it. So just for me mentally, that's just what I envisioned. And I also wanted to, let people know that it was a different business. And because I also have salt in my name.
Yeah, that sounded like a sign. They have salt and poppy, and then you're bringing in sea salt.
Right. And
yeah.
I had a list of names, and my daughter and I would look at names, and I was like, wow, I really loved sea salt, but I can't be sea salt next to salt and poppy. And so it actually worked out. It worked out really well. And I just kept going back to that name, and the logo came together really quickly, and help of the Pelicans. So
Now, you mentioned a couple of products. Talk a little bit more about other things that you have in there where you can apply the creativity, and then maybe touch on those that seem to be the most popular.
Sure. So as you know, I'm kind of I haven't really opened officially. I haven't done a grand opening yet. I'm sort of waiting till the fall to do that. So a lot of my neighbors and the people out here are back, can participate in that. But I am open. So I created it with, when you walk in, I want to have sort of a grab and go area with pre-made things, because people come in, they're like, well, I'm only here for the day, or I'm on my way to the airport. That happened the other day. So I want to have some things that people can take, but that's hard to do when you're a personalization business.
Mm-hmm.
So my idea was, well, how can I do that where people can get something quickly? Even though I do have a quick turnaround time, I want people to be able to take something with them if they had to. So I'm trying to do just some things that have Pine Island on them, like what I showed you with the Island Time Begins Here. I'm putting that on dish towels and bags and hats and things, so that if that speaks to them. I had just a little map of Pine Island digitized, which is where you take a graphic and turn it into an embroidery file, into a stitching file. So I put that on a few things, and just some fun sayings and things like that. And then beyond that, I have the little consultation room that I was telling you about, where people can pick out their fonts and threads. And sometimes that inspires them, or sometimes people just come in and say, you pick, which is fine. A lot of my customers that I've had for 15 years or more are like, no, you know what I like, you just do it, which is sometimes good, sometimes hard. And then I have another couple of rooms with things like canvas beach bags and cutting boards. And then I have a little baby section where I have very traditional, the baby bloomers, cotton baby bloomers, and onesies and burp cloths. And you can put anything on them. I mean, really, the sky is the limit. And cosmetics, bags, personal items, but also gift type items. I try and have a little bit of something for everyone. The tumblers, they get engraved with, you can do business logos on them, or funny sayings, something that's meaningful to people. I just did some glasses for a birthday gift out here the other day for someone. And, the saying on it might not mean something to you or I, but to them, it's an inside joke or something. And so that's kind of fun to be able to do something like that.
And you're really, what I listened to you before, you're bringing people out to the island. You should mention that to the chamber. I mean, they'll be thrilled you're bringing people, because a lot of people aren't coming just yet.
Right. And I hear that from a lot of the other retailers out here. So and it's such a tight community, which I love. And everybody, I've met a lot of the other people, Janine from Material Green and Lisa from Salty Paws. And so they've come in and we've talked, and, sort of brainstormed about, how can we grow our businesses together? Can we do events? And I love that collaborative, sort of effort to bring, everybody who lives out here loves the island. Everybody who works out here even loves the island. So the idea of sort of working together to create something where people can come and, when people come in, I say, hey, stop, you've got to stop in and check out this place. She does amazing work. I feel confident sending people to, restaurants on the island. When people come in, they're like, oh, I'm going to go grab some lunch now. Where do you like to go? And I will tell them what I love about every different place. And I think there's something I love differently about every single restaurant out here. There's something special about it. So I agree. And, I am a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and they go to a lot of effort out here. And I love that, being part of that. I wasn't part of that when I was in Fort Myers. I did have young kids, but I was very busy. I had a lot of walk-in traffic there and a lot of customers, word of mouth. And I have that here as well, but I'm excited to be part of something different.
Do you have a story of something that touched you that happened with a sale or, it doesn't have to be here, but
I have a lot of customers that I've had for a long time. So there are literally some people who I've put their name on their child's backpack and then on their things going away to college, set of towels, a laundry bag. And then I've done things for their weddings and now I'm doing their baby gifts. And it's the coolest thing. I mean, to see these people transition through different events and stages of their lives. And that's really probably the most special aspect to it. But, I do a lot of business customers also with logos on their shirts. And that doesn't seem like that's not the sexy part of the business, right? But at the same time, I love that someone comes in and they have a passion about their business. So they want to present this professional image. And I like helping them do that. They're like, well, I don't need 50 shirts. Can you do just one or two? And yeah, I can do that. And then they go out into the community and they're proud of their business. And so that's something that is special, even though on its surface, you wouldn't necessarily think it is. And I encourage a lot of businesses to do that. There's a customer in Fort Myers, Joe Mitchell, he owns Pool Pros. And he told me one time, he's like, I put my logo on all of my shirts because I go out, I'm at the airport, I'm in another city and someone says, hey, tell me about your business. And it's just great advertising. And so I like to tell all of my small business owners that I'm like, put your name on everything. It's free advertising for you. When you're out somewhere, someone sees your logo and they ask you about your business and there's a connection.
Well, speaking of small businesses, what would you tell someone who wants to put their creative passion into a business? What advice would you give them?
Well, it's hard. I think it's very hard to be everything to everyone. It's very hard to be both a good business person and a good creator. And I definitely say you have to really do your research and think about what your goals are, who you are as a business owner and a creator. Of course, there's lots of different business models. I picked a business that didn't have a very distinct business model. There are other embroiderers, but most of them are large shops that have a lot of different machines and they can do 50 hats at a time or more. And, then there wasn't really a business model that I saw that I could follow. So I had to sort of figure things out as I went. And I think that's just what's important is being able to be adaptable, being able to change if something's not working or, you have to be able to pivot and say, okay, how can I do this better? Or what am I missing? And there's a lot of growth. I know from my first business, from the first store that I opened to this one, there are some things that I carried over because they work well. They help my business flow. And there are other things that I'm like, you know what? I want to do this differently out here this time. And this is why. And I'm happy for that opportunity to have grown and, figured some things out for sure.
Is there anything that surprised you about going into business?
Out here, and I was not expecting the community to be so supportive and so interested. I just didn't know, not being new to this community, it's very special. People are extremely loyal and supportive. They want to see you succeed. And I'm sure it's like that other places and you just don't necessarily notice because you're in a city or a bigger metropolis, whatever. But out here, people, they ask you, what can I do to support you? And at first I was like, oh, it's okay. It's fine. But they want to see you succeed in a way that is supportive of the island, which I love. It's just a different experience, being out here and seeing the community aspect of it is just tremendous. The people that just stop in and they're just like, well, I just want to say good luck and, I'll be back. And, people are, of course, there's a seasonal element, but there's, also a lot of full-time people out here. And it's just been, I guess what surprised me is just the support from the community out here.
I think every podcast we hear community time and time again.
It's very unique. When we first started coming out here, before we actually moved out here, we did have some friends that already live out here. And so we came to the golf cart parade and the boat parade. And we were already very much hooked by that point and still trying to sell our house and get into, because we moved We closed on our house and moved in 30 days. It happened very, very quickly. I kept joking and saying, "Is it a cult? Is there a cult out here?"
Something in the
Because
water.
everybody is very, very happy. And, I think when you live other places, you have moments where you're like that, but you're not like that all the time. But out here, we're like that all the time. Everyone, it's a melting pot. Everybody is very welcoming. And so our friends that lived out here, they dragged us all around to all kinds of people's homes. And we just walked in. I'm like, are we supposed to be walking in these people's home? They're like, don't worry about it. They're out of town, or they're they're up north or whatever. They don't care if we use their dock or whatever. We're like, okay. And we realized that that's just how everybody is out here. And I probably shouldn't say it, but everyone's like, we don't lock our doors. I'm like, well, let's not advertise that. That's just the way everybody is out here. They look out for their neighbors. And of course, I live on the best street in St. James City. I live on Sycamore Street, and we have a wonderful community on that street. It's just, community is huge out here.
So in terms of futures, you've got a grand opening coming this fall.
Yes.
How's that coming together? And then with your learnings and as you begin to adapt into the island, anything else that you want to share today? I mean, if there's something you're still planning is not fully baked, you don't need to, but and I know you're relatively new here,
Yeah.
but from what you did and did not do in Fort Myers, and now that you've transitioned out here, things that you just haven't had time to get to, but you maybe foresee coming.
I guess the reason I'm sort of pushing a grand opening off to the fall is because I want to make sure that I have all of my processes in place so it just flows seamlessly. And so there are some things that are a little bit experimental. Like I do take outside items. You can bring me a set of towels and I can put something on them. I've always done that. And the reason is because it keeps me going. It keeps work going. I mean, not everybody's coming in every single day and buying 10 beach bags or beach hats, So I've always done that, but there is a lot of risk involved with that as well. Somebody brings in an heirloom christening gown and it's, 4 generations have worn the christening gown. Do you really want to risk messing that up? So, or they bring, unusual items in, like a golf bag. Well, that's a hard thing to embroider. I can do it, usually, almost always. So just nailing down those processes. And of course, I haven't had a store now for 5 years. So I'm still figuring things out. And I think that's okay. Figuring out what people on the island need and want. It's been one of my policies that when a charity comes to me and asks for a donation, I love to be able to do that because it's mostly my time that I'm giving because I'm, making an item for that. So I want to continue to be able to do that out here on the island and support the island. And so I'm still figuring out how to best do that. What are the people on the island? What niche can I fill here? I'm still figuring that out a little bit, but I've had a lot of customers in and a lot of positive feedback, and it's a little bit of customer training. My existing customers come in, they drop a bag of towels on the counter and say, "You know what I like? I want it in neon pink." But now I have people come in, they're like, "Well, I don't know what I want. Can I get a grilled cheese sandwich on this?" I'm like, I can do that. So it's a little, people come in and they kind of have a questioning look like, well, who are you and what do you do? So there's a little bit of customer education that's what I'm going for right now, is just to sort of educate people. And then when the fall hits, I want to make sure I'm ready for the holidays because that's, it's like Santa's little workshop, I gear up to have Christmas items, everything from Christmas stockings and Christmas ornaments and, things that make the holidays fun. And that's the best time, the holiday season, gearing up to just help people give great gifts and, bringing a little bit of personal.
Well, the people that are listening to the podcast, if they go out to your Facebook and Instagram,
Yes,
those hats are unbelievable. I love those. Who knew you could embroider on a brim of a big beach hat? That's gorgeous.
but it's just so fun, and people are like, "Wait, you can embroider those?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can embroider a lot of things that people don't think of or realize." And my motto should just be, if I can, get it on the machine, I'll do it. So with engraving and embroidery, with the hats, they're just, I call them lifeguard hats, or they're great for gardening. And they're, men love them, women love them. I mean, it's something simple, but you put a name on it or a cute monogram. And I do a lot of them for girls trips. I have In fact, tomorrow I have 6 I'm doing for a girls' trip for someone. And it's just kind of a fun gift to give. And then you don't lose your hat because it has your initials on it. So sometimes monogramming is for aesthetics. Sometimes it's because you would like your kids' backpack to come home or their lunchbox. And I've actually had that happen where someone was like, yeah, somebody stole my kid's lunchbox, but I got it back because their monogram was on it. And the kid who stole it didn't even know what the monogram was, but we got it back. So it's kind of funny.
So if somebody's interested in sea salt, maybe tell them location, phone number, hours, how to get a hold of you best.
Yes. So first of all, if you see my baby blue Bronco there, I'm there because I do go in outside of the business hours so that I can get work done. But my open hours are Wednesday through Saturday, 12 to 5, and also by appointment. So I realized that I tried to hit everybody's, availability, but it's impossible to do that. So I've always taken appointments. You can either text me. My number is right on the door. It's 239-839-8153, or through Facebook, Instagram. I always suggest people follow me there because I am a one-person shop. I do all of the social media and the buying and the production and the business aspect. I do all of it. So it's Facebook, Instagram, it's just an easy way to disseminate information. I post a picture of a hat and then I get 10 orders for them. It's just an easy way to do that. So I'm located at the Island Center.
You want to talk about yourself for sea salt that we've not yet asked you?
I don't know. A lot of times people just don't really understand the embroidery process or how long it takes. And if someone comes in and says, can you do this? If I can do it on the spot, I will. I don't prefer to because it's a lot of pressure and I don't want to mess something up. I'd rather have at least a couple hours to try and get something done. That's the biggest question is how long does it take?
How long? Yeah. And I know you want people to just stop by and say hi.
Right. And check it out. And if they have questions, people come in and go, oh, you know what? I have a blanket that I've always wanted to have a monogram on. I'm like, well, bring it on. Bring it in. We can look at it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
You are excellent at this.
I appreciate it.
Wonderful.
I'm passionate about it. I love what I do. People are always like, I think it took a while for my mom to come to terms with the fact that I went to law school and now this is what I do. But I love what I do.
Well, and it shows.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
for having
us.
me. It was super fun.
We hope you enjoyed our Pine Island Experience podcast. If you have any ideas for us, people to interview, or any comments, please feel free to email them to us at pineislandexperience@gmail.com. That's pineislandexperience, all one word, @gmail.com. Don't forget to like us, and you may subscribe to this podcast using all the major catchers like Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Thanks again for listening, and remember, island life is a constant vacation. We'll see you on the next podcast.